How's it going, everybody? GodBaer here. Once again, thank you for clicking into one of my videos. We are back with our online Madden League. We are the 12-2 Baltimore Ravens going up against the 8-6 Indianapolis Colts. And I do want to share with you guys after this game, our week 17, the last game of the regular season, is going to get simmed, so we'll throw in these stats from that game. But right now, we have the Colts as our last game of the regular season that we get to play. He will come out here with the ball. He's got Alfred Morris out there running the ball, so we got to make sure he doesn't bruise or injure any of our players as he dots us up deep down the middle of the field, trying to lock up to the best of our capabilities because our DB core is absolutely phenomenal. Having the addition of Chuck Clark with how well he's improved, becoming a 90 overall after starting at a 66 is just absolutely phenomenal, as we do hold these Colts to a field goal, so they do start the game with the lead. But of course, heavy offensive dose of Tevin Coleman is going to come out here, bust off a big run to start it off, set the pace, break some tackles. This time Joe Williams, the running back that we got out of the free agency early in the season, just because he's got that 92 speed, I believe, 80 trucking, just a lot like a Tevin Coleman, just not quite as proven. Hopefully we'll eventually progress him. He just doesn't get a whole lot of playing time because we only run when Tevin Coleman is out there, and Mason Rudolph still not that good. We have not passed the ball much at all, so he has not progressed as we are getting a sack, pinning him back at the 2-yard line, 3-yard line now after one more play, a gain of 1 after a nice little just flat route by him. But right here, Jimmy Smith getting an interception, taking a shot by Andrew Luck. But regardless, we are at the 10-yard line, hoping to actually come away with a touchdown on this drive. 3rd and 10, looking for something. Plenty of time in the pocket, and we're actually just going to take off. Hurdle defender almost crossed the line for the end zone, but we unfortunately end up fumbling. So back-to-back red zone visits where we turn over the ball. That is not how we want to play. Nearly getting a nice little pick with Tim Williams right there, but the Indianapolis Colts are trying to work down this field. We cover the screen user-wise, and we get the sack. 3rd and 24, trying to not give up a humongous 3rd down right here, chucking this one deep, and he almost comes away with it twice. But we do get the ball after a punt. Looking for circle right here. We got Wallace. I let you guys know that we are going to play him just so we can have another wide receiver that is over a 70 overall. Mason Rudolph once again taking off, picking up another 1st down, and that's one of the few things I'm actually happy Mason Rudolph is capable of doing. My main objective, everyone has their, certain, I guess, lines or wants in terms of attributes in players, and having at least 75 speed for my quarterback is one of the main goals. I want to have at least a semi-mobile quarterback, and Mason Rudolph is that for me. Obviously, we picked him up out of the free agency just because we didn't want to play Joe Flacco just because of his age. We wouldn't have been able to progress him. Obviously, we probably would have been able to do better passing the ball throughout the season. Hardly throwing for probably not even 10 touchdowns at this point in this game or the season, and at times we've struggled. We're 12-2, so regardless of how the passing game has looked or been, the run game has always been there to ultimately get us victories, or I guess maintain the lead for us by chewing clock and just working down the field and kicking field goals, if not getting into the end zone for a touchdown. Tevin Coleman is an absolute monster, trying to get this man to be a 99 overall. He started off as an 87, and he's obviously, I expected to break the single season rushing record with 2,105 yards or whenever it is, and we passed that, I believe, at like season or week 8 or something like that. Is Tevin Coleman his very first fumble of the entire season, and this man's got like 300 carries, so it's unfortunate that he had his first fumble, but I expected one a long time ago with how much of a workhorse this guy has actually been. And once again, 3rd and 8, just trying to chuck it up to one of his wide receivers. Luckily, we do break it up, and Tevin Coleman breaking tackles, getting 1st downs, and like I said, when we have leads, we're going to continue to run this ball. We're going to run it regardless, but when we have leads, especially as Washington our only young wide receiver that we like, as we get 4 pancake blocks and a walk-in untouched touchdown by Tevin Coleman. This man has over 30 rushing touchdowns, 3,000 yards on the season. But like I said, you guys are going to find out at the end of this game the whole statistics from the entire league, not just my team. I will show you guys the MVP, which I'm hoping is, of course, Tevin Coleman for how well he's played, breaking multiple game and season records amongst everybody else in terms of the AFC and NFC. Ravens are AFC, so of course we're hoping that we get some offensive and defensive rookies, best wide receiver, quarterback, running back, all that good stuff, as Marlon Humphrey did get an interception earlier, and this is going to set us up just to secure the game already in the fourth quarter, looking to break some tackles, trying to get out of there, get loose. But regardless, a big gain is a big gain. Trying to pass just to build up some statistics, help the quarterback progress, because like I said, we have not done much on him. With the weekly training, we haven't been training quarterbacks. We haven't had Mason Rudolph as one of the 3 choices to earn extra experience, as we get our 3rd turnover inside the red zone, which I feel pretty comfortable about pulling off the victory, but it's definitely hurt us in terms of that scoreboard, only having 14 points, as that probably would have been a safety. We still get it, but regardless, safety, sack, fumble. Would have been nice to get a defensive touchdown right there, just like I said, since this is the last game of the regular season. At this point, I thought I was going to have the Bengals to play, but we ended up, the season, or the commissioners and all the other users wanted to go ahead and simulate just to get to the playoffs. My game was one of the last few to be played, and instead of waiting however long it was going to be for me and the Bengals to match up, we just went ahead and simulated to get into the playoffs, which of course went much quicker because it's less teams that were involved. And now Chuck Clark, the man of probably the entire season, 66 overall, became a 90 something overall. You guys will see later on as Tevin Coleman just trying to chew the last bit of this clock out. We are going to pass on 3rd and 2. Like I said, just trying to feed some stats at this point. Washington will cut upfield, get open, haul this one in, and now a couple more run plays just to chew the last bit of clock. Not trying to run up the score on my opponent because St. Sean is one of my friends. Just trying to, once again, stats are stats. We're nearing the end of the season, seeing what I can get, just because when the season's over, when next season starts, we'll have new goals, as Mason Rudolph actually gets a rushing touchdown. We win this game 23-9. We end the season with a 14-2 record. The Bengals game will be a forced win in my favor, as Mason Rudolph finishes this one with 205 yards, 2 interceptions, no passing touchdowns by either team. Tevin Coleman just under 200 yards with 2 touchdowns and a 7.3 yards carry. Mike Wallace, leading receiver, with 74 yards. Washington up with there with 2 catches and 53 yards. Of course, no touchdowns, so nobody did all that well. Leading tackler will actually be Matthew Judon at the defensive end spot, who had 3 sacks. Pierce with 1 sack, interceptions, Jimmy Smith, Frank Clark, and Tulliver. Our returning injury is Carlton Davis, our other corner, who I'm very happy to have back. I'm showing you guys these stats through the force win. Tevin Coleman had a good day. Mason Rudolph ended up getting a passing touchdown, which we didn't do the game prior against the Colts, so that was obviously nice. And then, of course, down here, the tight end that we have, Jasecki, with the receiving touchdown, as well as Robert Davis, our 6'3", 91 speed, 60-something overall, slow development wide receiver, which would have been nice to progress him, but that didn't happen. CJ Mosley with the leading tackles at 11. Sacks is going to be Matthew Judon, Noah Spence, and then of course Tyus Bowser, who I'm actually going to be trading away. You guys will find out that in next season we're going to trade away a few players just to gain draft picks and get this team even younger than we already, I guess, caused it to be by trading away other players like Brandon Williams. We traded away a lot of talent, a lot of old, I guess, overalls, but ultimately just trying to get the team young. I love building up players, as MVP goes to Tevin Coleman, Defensive Player of the Year for the AFC at least goes to Matthew Judon, and then Lamar Jackson, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then Chuck Clark just shy of Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I'm happy that we beat St. Sean, because in Week 17, Sanshawn threw 2 interceptions to that Dylan Cole middle linebacker, which ended up beating Chuck Clark by 1 interception. And I feel like if we would have been able to play our game against the Bengals, we would have been able to win that Defensive Rookie of the Year, but it didn't end up happening. The first time we played the Bengals, Chuck Clark had 2 or 3 interceptions. It was the very first week of this season launching, or the debut game, is when Chuck Clark got 2 interceptions against the Bengals, and I believe Chuck Clark would have been able to do exactly that, if not another interception, and that would have secured that Defensive Rookie of the Year. But regardless, you know, he missed out on experience, but he still had a great season. You guys saw how well our man Tevin Coleman did, as well as Matthew Judon with 20 sacks, Chuck Clark and CJ Mosley with 15 and 10 interceptions, Jimmy Smith with 12 pass deflections amongst 3 other defenders with over 10 pass deflections, forced fumbles. Didn't even think we were going to have that many, but I'm happy that we had that. Tolliver, our 4th string corner, with 2 forced fumbles. Jimmy Smith and CJ Mosley with 3 and 2 defensive touchdowns, and then about 4 or 5 people with defensive touchdowns on our squad as well. Dak Prescott leads in passing yards. He also leads in passing touchdowns, and then interceptions is going to be the Bengals quarterback and Andy Dalton. And that is why we felt like Chuck Clark would have been able to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, because that would have been a great day for Chuck Clark, as we, I don't want to say nearly doubled, but semi-close to doubling the most rushing yards on the entire league, and then we had about 10 rushing touchdowns over anybody else. Tyreek Hill with the most receiving yards, the most receiving touchdowns, which once again is my friend Hyphy. He definitely stared down Tyreek Hill and gave himself some, I guess, a few losses to get Tyreek Hill all those stats by forcing him the ball and throwing interceptions. Packers defensive end with 21 sacks. Judon tied for 2nd, leading interceptions. Hassan Reddick, Dylan Cole, and then what should be tied for 3rd with Jalen Smith is Chuck Clark, but his stats haven't shown all season long. But that is going to wrap up this video. We are going to start with the playoffs in the next one. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below and by that thumbs up. Much appreciated. And until next time, everybody, GodBaer out.